Mirella Robinson, thank you so much for joining me. It was International Women's Day, of course, on Saturday.
Yes.
As we just spoke about, it should be International Women's Month for the month of March. Agreed that we should be shining a spotlight on the achievements of women for the month of March. And so we're, of course, wanting to shine a spotlight on female technology leaders. You've had a 20+ year career in technology. You've worked for organisations like Monash University, AXA, Census, Origin Energy, Sportsbet, ANZ, Latitude, Cbus Super, and of course today CTO with MLC Life Insurance. I'd love to ask, what inspired you to pursue a career in technology?
I reckon it's almost accidental, Katrina, to be truthful. Two things. Really young, always loved math, always loved science, and I always thought of myself as becoming someone that would solve problems. So, and then really that's at the heart of how I've ended up here, because along the way, lots of problems to be solved. And very early in my career, I recognized that technology is at the heart of enabling and providing solutions for a lot of problems or a lot of challenges for organizations. And so the inspiration is really a love of math coupled with where are the problems and where can I find different ways to solve and solution out, and then add a little bit of some really inspirational leadership along the way. So amazing men and women who have influenced, advocated and supported me in and encouraged me to make really different choices perhaps than what I would have just if I'd followed a bouncing ball.
Yeah. And I think that's it. I mean, that's the exciting thing about technology. We live in the digital age. Everything we do depends on technology. It underpins our work life, our social life, which also means, of course, there's more and more opportunities and different pathways within technology, which is exciting. What advice would you give to young women aspiring to a technology career?
Oh, wow. I always say I don't give advice, but I'll share some experiences. And mostly because I actually started, in my first early days working more in marketing and data and analysis. And I didn't really see myself as someone who was a technologist. But when I reflect back, and you went through that list, wow, I've worked for a lot of different organizations. And at the heart of everything I've done, technology's played such a big role. So my encouragement would be to really think about not just as a technology career, but as how you would use technology and follow passion around what you like and enjoy and do. Secondly, I would say be open-minded and say yes to a lot of different opportunities that might come your way that you might think aren't a direct pathway. I've done lots of sideways moves. I've listened to people I respect about where they thought I had talent or capability, and then followed that of those opportunities. So I've said yes to a few things that mightn't typically look like a normal pathway. And then I would also encourage a little bit of resilience. So there's no perfect pathways, and every opportunity to learn builds into your kit bag of possibilities for the future. There are things I'm doing now that I would never have imagined early in my career, because I possibly was a little self-limiting and it didn't foresee to literally plot the path, but was open-minded and accepted feedback, encouragement, and tried some things that I learned from that I didn't like as well.
Yeah. Great advice. And I think that's it. You need to embrace all of the learnings and all of the failures and say yes to opportunities and be willing to step out of the comfort zone. Great encouragement, great words of advice there. Thank you. When I think about organizations and I guess the importance of creating an inclusive workplace and the importance of obviously being able to attract and retain female leaders really does require a combination of intentional hiring strategies, inclusive workplace policies, and a strong company culture that values diversity and equity. What kind of policies and practices and strategies have you seen work well in organisations to encourage female leader, more females in leadership roles progressing the ranks?
Look, there's some of the usual suspects of things that are just actually good business and good practice. And certainly in attracting talent, you really want to open up to, I always think about what's the problems I'm trying to solve and how do I get a different mindsets in and involved. But the real basics, like I call them the, not foundations, but the what's the word? The structural pieces.
Yeah.
So scaffolding is the word I use, because there's some real basics that are just about having good policy around hiring practices. But then you could take that further, particularly as I've progressed and been able to have more influence over how those policies are actually applied and lived out. So, of course, making sure that when you're trying to attract talent, you're open to a diverse mix of skills and competencies, so that kind of linear notion gets put to bed. And some of our policies in particular, and most organisations around open to and making sure that you're advertising or attracting through networks different methods to bring talent in, but also that your practices are, and I do this, and I've had opportunity to do this probably in the last maybe more 10 years of my career, where I won't progress in a recruiting process if I don't have a mix of experience and let's really talk about the gender piece. I want it to be stacked so that I get a mix of talent that's coming through the pipeline. I think also that beyond hiring practices is also about cultivating talent and learning opportunities inside organisations. So being like, I'm a lifelong learner and I'm a deeply curious person. So I'm always interested what's going on next door or what's happening in other parts of the organisation. I work in technology, but I am a business person. And so identifying and providing opportunities, or being able to communicate and share in simple terms of language opportunities for people who mightn't have followed a traditional pathway and track into these types of job roles. So secondments, being clear on the kind of skills and competencies, but being prepared to coach and train and give experience. That's kind of for the policies themselves, they're pretty basic. It's how you live them. And so the values and culture of an organisation, which is enormously important to me, either to choose one that fits with my values, but also if I can influence one and set by example how I'm applying policies and practices.
Agree. Absolutely. I think, and it's like a mission statement. You can have the words on the wall, but unless you're actually living and breathing and role modeling and demonstrating those values, it's not going to filter through the layers.
Do you know the other piece, Katrina, is the storytelling that goes with that as well? So we talk about our policies, but when we actually talk about how we're living those policies and what my actions and words look like in either support or in practice, I think that's the other piece. So we're looking for certain job families, like in technology, your architects are a particular job family that I've found really hard over the years to really press for a balance of experience and, so that I can coach in or otherwise, gender, cultural background, experience in other industries. That's another piece to really focus on. That's a really hard job family, I've found, to really hold true. It might mean it takes longer to bring certain talent into the organisation, but you've done it in a considered and in a way that just brings your policy to life rather than the easy path.
Agree. And I suppose in thinking about skills and thinking about, I guess, the next generation of female tech leaders, what skills do you think will be most critical?
Interestingly, I call them the hard soft skills as much as the critical thinking, the ability to have really great open and curious mindset around problem solving. So they never go away. Some of the more harder skill sets looking forward are people that can really work with data and interpret. I'm a data geek, so I'm always going to say that, Katrina.
Data is the new oil.
It is. I love that. I love that. I call it the lifeblood of an organization that pumps through the technology, systems, and processes that we use to actually make good decisions, make good choices. And so, people with skills or experiences where they've been able to, or they've grown that competency by practice, essentially, and then learning techniques and applying those practices. Then I'm going to go to the harder skills, which I referred to as soft skills, I think, or there's language around that. I call them the hard soft skills. Yeah. The ability to coach and grow teams, the ability to pull together diverse sets of talent and experience to actually get a harmonious working environment that actually brings together the best of different ways people think and solve problems to work together. And that's really hard. That's not so easy as it sounds. And so I call it the honing of our empathy and people skills as a really, really hard soft skill, I'll call it. Yeah. And then the final one, which I think I enjoy in different ways, really practicing this muscle for myself, is creativity. So in a world where things are becoming increasingly systematized, I once held the belief if I could codify the world, it would be so much easier. Because human emotion and human behavior is hard to effectively have great control over. But harnessing and working with that requires that mix of great thinking and analytical skills, amazing empathy, soft, hard skills that you can evolve, but also creativity. It's really important. And in the age where AI is just becoming the buzzword of everything, I kind of look back and go, yeah, that's data modeling, statistics. That's like back in the day, we called that this. But in fact, it is moving at such a rapid pace. So our resilience and our ability to adapt and be creative around how we use these techniques, tools, and capabilities. So that's a lot to think of, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think AI cannot do what we do in terms of the soft skills that we bring to the table. I read a quote yesterday that really resonated, which is AI won't take our jobs, but it will take our customers. And so if you're not as an organization leveraging AI to give you your competitive advantage, you're at the risk of losing, customer footprint.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it is effectively another range and set of capability that we need to be tucking in to work out how we harness, how we use. And I just think, that's a great quote. I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I also think if we're not using it, we're standing still. And if we're not using it, we're effectively standing still is going backwards. So
that's it. We have to embrace technology and the efficiencies and effectiveness and the opportunities that it gives us.
Yeah.
And on that note, what do you think are the major priorities for business leaders in the year ahead?
So there is kind of a mix of industry as technology becomes really the lifeblood of organizations and effectively is I call it the great enabler. And I always refer to that as my job. My job is not to make cool kit or install interesting technology or just solve problems. It's to enable. And so 2025 is an interesting year because there's a lot of pressure on our, let's call it our customers, whoever your customers are. As organizations, there's a lot of pressure around cost and there's a lot of pressure around, particularly in Australia, it's a tough economic climate. And so the focus really is about being able to build product, service and capability that is easy to access and use. I think organizations in the embracing of AI and AI capabilities, I kind of call it the capabilities, and really that's being able to wrangle your data and use these techniques to make things more efficient, and make experiences more engaging, and so that they resonate with customers. I also think that this year is certainly a year of everyone's waiting and watching as to what's going to kind of lift and drive organisations to simplify. So yeah, they're the two observations here. And then I'm in an organisation that is merging two big organizations together, and we are effectively looking to grow sustainably. So that's the other piece that we bear in mind, and I bear in mind very much when I think about technology, because it's not so much just the cost, but it is an environmental impact, the energy consumption and the use. So AI is a huge user of energy. Yeah. And so doing that in a very considered, commercial and a sustainable way is a focus this year for us in particular.
Busy year ahead, no doubt about it. Yeah. So thank you for taking the time to chat with me this morning. Thanks so much.